GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show where we make crypto insights simpler than deciding to round up for charity at checkout. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we are joined by Carl Vogel, partner and head of research at Six Man Ventures. Now, if you don't know Six Man Ventures, they're an early stage crypto VC firm investing in applications, infrastructure, one of the leading firms in the space, highly respected. Today, we're going to get Carl's take on CPI inflation report that came out yesterday. We're going to talk about XRP ripping, hitting new all-time highs. We're going to tell you why, what's going on, what's causing that pump. We're also going to get Carl's highest take conviction for 2025. What tokens, what sectors does he like? Now, before we jump in, you guys might remember that back in the end of last year, I think it was one of our prediction episodes, I said I would give away a Milk Road Pro subscription for free to one of our subscribers. Well, Live, Love, Level Up. That's your name on YouTube. We are trying to contact you to give you a free Milk Road Pro subscription. If you're listening to this, check your DMs so we can hook you up. If we don't hear from you by the end of the week, we're going to pick somebody else, and somebody else is going to get that free pro subscription. Before we jump in, we'll just take a minute to hear from our sponsors who make this show possible. Meet ODOS, the DeFi aggregator that makes your token swap smarter, faster, and a whole lot easier. Tired of trading like it's 2019? ODOS finds the best prices for your swaps across 900 liquidity sources and 14 blockchains, so you always get more bang for your crypto buck. Whether you're swapping, setting a limit order, or just avoiding gas fees like the plague, ODOS has you covered. It's like having a genius trader in your pocket, minus the coffee addiction. Join 3 million wallets already using ODOS to power over 6 billion in monthly trades. Start making smarter swaps today at milkroad.com/ODOS. Carl, welcome to the Milk Road Show.
Terrific to be here. Excited to jump in.
Yeah, man, really excited to have you. First time having you on the show. Hopefully not the last time. Let's start with green candles all around. It was sort of a rough, bumpy period to start January, and then CPI and things were really, really dipping, and everybody was saying, oh my gosh, are we going to get down to 70K, 80K Bitcoin? You know, we touched 89K, and it was no. But CPI came out yesterday. Market reacted fairly positively. CPI came in at 2.9%, which was met expectations, even though it was an increase from 2.7, which was the previous CPI. What's your reaction? What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I think when people were sort of becoming bearish on Bitcoin at this point, it's like the most exciting opportunity for Bitcoin the world has ever seen, where from a US perspective, we have a pro-crypto regime that is coming in under Trump. We expect there's going to be mass reforms in regulation, making it easier for both our government, but also companies, enterprises, small businesses to actually start buying and owning and even transacting in crypto. I think there's going to be a lot of regulation, not just on Bitcoin, but on the stablecoin front, which is really going to help these businesses build end-to-end solutions on crypto rails. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but for somebody to be bearish over these, when we're going into this next 4 years of optimism, I'm not surprised at all that we're back up. And I expect over the next, this 4 years looking out, we're going to see, of course, new all-time highs on Bitcoin. So it's pretty clear to me, and I'm incredibly optimistic about the next 4 years.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin and some news today. But before we do, we got to talk about XRP, because I woke up this morning and XRP is hit all-time highs. I got the chart up on the screen for the last year of XRP, just flat until October. XRP is the funniest token. Look at the max chart here. This is a scary chart. Look at this.
Wow.
It just has these massive green candles out of nowhere and then fades again. I don't think that this screams to me not a token that I want to own personally, but obviously you can't fade a token that's, getting this type of attention, hitting all-time highs. My view, the reason for these all-time highs, the big news was that Trump said that he has been meeting with a bunch of crypto founders, American crypto founders specifically. And basically this news is leaked that he might consider a US-based crypto reserve that would prioritize American founded coins, Solana, XRP being on that list. What are your thoughts about this?
So from a crypto perspective, it's extremely optimistic to see the government taking positions and promoting American exceptionalism. I think for too long, we've seen founders have to move outside the US or launch tokens outside the US. And I think he's saying, bring it back. Like, let's do this, America, and let's win together. So incredibly optimistic about that. I think over the very long term, I'd rather us owning treasury assets, not just that are American made, but are actually best for the long term of our country. I think one of the bigger unlocks is, of course, that, but it's really that, again, XRP and the organization has been under lawsuits for many years, and those have been slowly been clearing out. But I think now people realize that regulatory overhang, that legal overhang is now being removed, and there's going to be a clear pathway paved. So, think about this a year ago, lawsuits, multiple lawsuits ongoing against the organization. And now it's not only are those going to be going away, most likely in full, but this might actually become part of the American government reserve, right? So that change of tone and attitude over the past year is remarkable. So I'm not surprised to see it hit all-time highs. To be honest, not financial advice, but I am not an XRP holder. But I will tell you that they are a dedicated community. I can tell when XRP is ripping, because all of a sudden these dormant chats that haven't gotten any action for years, people are like, oh, we're up, baby, let's go. And I love people for that. And I think with culture, with crypto, so much of crypto is about culture. It's not just about fundamentals of like how much revenue is a token producing. And I think there is a strong culture around XRP. So I think they're really rallying here together to get a new all-time high.
Yeah, I think the bet on XRP in my mind is at this point less about the fundamentals, because the fundamentals are not strong enough to represent its current valuation, but the potential, as you said, of if they got into favor with this regulation that's going to come in, not exactly sure the timeline, but it's going to come in the next year, likely. Maybe it takes a few years, we'll see. But particularly on the stablecoin side, like if XRP's Ripple stablecoin were to become a favored stablecoin through the regulation, that would be, you're kind of betting on something like that in my mind, which I don't necessarily like betting on that stuff because that's completely out of my control, and who knows if that happens or not. And it kind of feels more like it's very speculative to something that, don't know.
Well, especially when you put it in the context of Circle, the largest U.S. issuer of stablecoins today across numerous blockchain networks, sort of the industry standard apart from Tether. I think Tether was pursuing an IPO and the valuation was around $5 billion. And I forget the number on that chart, but it was hundreds of billions. And so you look at the mispricing there, and it's either that XRP is extremely lofty and going to come down at some point, or that in general people are more bullish on stable coins, and Circle's IPO perhaps should be going at a lot higher price, and that's one to watch when it happens. So I think there's a lot of mispricing in the market right now, and for those diligent searchers and traders that are looking for those mispricings, creating narrative around it. Another classic one is Solana ETH, which we can get into later, but like mass mispricing in terms of the fundamentals across Solana versus Ethereum. So another really big opportunity there. So I think just looking at these mispricings, building positions, and then sort of following those and promoting those narratives, really a key to success over the next year.
Well, let's talk about where you see those mispricings. Let me just bring up like the XRP chart quickly. So XRP, almost 200 billion market cap. So as you mentioned, like a massive gap between 200 billion market cap and a potential 5 billion IPO by Tether, who is much bigger than XRP is here. Where do you want to chat about? I'm down to chat about Solana ETH.
Let's do Solana ETH. So at Six Man Ventures, we've been longtime Solana investors, probably one of the biggest investors in the Solana ecosystem across a number of companies and the quality of outcomes from the founders we invested in. In general, for those that don't know, Solana is a high performance blockchain, basically built to be much more scalable than legacy systems like Ethereum. Unlike Ethereum, that has a number of rollups where a lot of the transactions happen and the value accrues back to Ethereum, the main token. Everything takes place in Solana on the base layer. And so when you start looking at performance in terms of DeFi trading volume, the amount of revenue that's being generated on chain, the amount of transactions that are going on, even if you start to add up Ethereum and all of its L2s, on many of those metrics, they still underperform Solana. So from that perspective, Solana is just an incredibly strong asset with probably the strongest builder community of founders out there launching new products, but yet its market cap is 1/4 that of Ethereum. And so, that's why the Solana trade was one of the best trades to make over the past 2 years, because it went down to $8 and now is back up to $215. So both as a fund and RPA, we were very long Solana buying during that season, and had some, pretty generational outcomes. And so we continue to be long that trade though, because we do think there's a lot of opportunity.
Do you think that Ethereum has its moment finally in 2025? That
here's the thing:
looking for
the bull case for Ethereum is it has, I'll say, stronger likelihood of being an institutional chain. So when you talk about BlackRock, when you talk about these very large companies and they start to issue different types of structured financial products, those have a higher chance, I would say, of being issued on Ethereum or some sort of permissioned network that then rolls up to the Ethereum ecosystem. I think just Ethereum has been in market for a lot longer. There's much more data on it. In terms of the past 2 years, it's just had more uptime than something like Solana. And so the bull case is a number of these institutions coming out with products that all of a sudden people realize Ethereum is an incredible asset and is a proxy to this institutional adoption of crypto. I think that's the Ethereum bull case. The Solana bull case is all of the new, if not all, like close to all of the new consumer applications and things being built at scale for millions of users are going to be built on Solana. And so people are just going to need to buy Solana to even interact with some of these different applications. I think Pump.Fun is a perfect example where, that company has generated over $400 million in 10 months, built on Solana, but users need Solana to trade the meme coin. And so now you have all these users buying Solana to go ahead and trade. And, they realize that Solana is incredible technology. It works well. So both have strong bull cases. I'll be honest, like Solana is by far my heavier bag of the two, but I can see Ethereum having a moment for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously with AI agents, you mentioned meme coins and Pump.Fun. Next is up is AI agents. I don't want to quite get into that yet, but let's come back to that later in the show. But Solana really set up to succeed as a result of AI agents, as is Base, which obviously rolls up to Ethereum. So big opportunities on both sides.
The difference there, though, is for there's no Base token. So in order to hold Coinbase, you really need to buy coin, Coinbase's stock. And so to some people, that is less appealing than getting something liquid that I can buy anywhere in the world without having to use a bank or a brokerage or something like that. So that's the benefit of one versus the other. But yeah, I agree. Base, especially in this AI agents, if you look at DePIN, sort of most crypto categories, it does seem like Solana and Base are the two places where these higher performance things are being built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's touch on Bitcoin quickly and what we expect to happen for the market. Basically, for like the next few days, the next week. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. So, bring up the Bitcoin chart. I think the one thing that everybody needs to know is we are pumped back up to 99,000. We're at 99.5 as of recording right now. But we are still in this range. If you like TA, we're still in this channel. We haven't necessarily broken out. Now we do have sort of a falling wedge pattern happening as well, which is often quite bullish, especially when we're leading up to Trump's inauguration, which could very likely be a big moment and a lot of positive news. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin right now, and what do you expect to see over the next week?
Look, I am not a TA. I don't trade on TA, so it's harder for me. I'm much more of a barbell strategy, hold my Bitcoin long-term, hold my Solana. So I don't have a differentiated view. But what I would say is if Trump does have big news coming up at his inauguration or in the week following about a Bitcoin sort of governmental treasury, I would hate to be the person that didn't own Bitcoin going into that announcement. So my view is, look, I don't know if, how, when those are going to materialize. but I think they have a high probability of occurring over the next, call it, couple of months or the next year. And we already see individual states starting to do this. We saw Pennsylvania, I saw Oklahoma. And so you would just hate to be the person who doesn't have bags in that type of environment. And I think once you start to see the US start to pave way here, as you mentioned before, like other countries are also interested in it. So it's hard to understand how quickly the adoption will go, but I know that I'm secure going into that and have strong holdings.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you just mentioned other countries buying. Hunter Horsley, the CEO of Bitwise, and we got the Bitwise team coming on the show next week, so we'll directly ask them about this. But he said, this is yesterday, we just provided some information for a nation state asking about Bitcoin ETFs. They're considering moving some exposure from foreign currency government bonds into BTC if Bitcoin is entering a new chapter. Yeah, I think this is going to be a headline. I think we're going to see quite a bit in the next year. Now, obviously, this is speculative and there isn't actually buying happening yet, but then the arms race is on for governments. Yep. We are at the point where Bitcoin is gunpowder or AI tech. You pick your version of new technology that if you don't own it, you risk falling behind, and Bitcoin is in that part of.
Yeah, there's a quote I really like that they were afraid to be first, then they were afraid to be last. So I think everyone sees this circling and being pent up, but once people start buying and announcing, all of a sudden everyone's going to be. I don't know if we can curse on the show, but like basically,
you can curse.
Oh yeah, holy shit, we got to start getting into this because we don't want to be the last guy that's buying this bag, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of movement here over the next couple months.
Yeah. The other quick things that came out today was Aave is considering adding Bitcoin to their treasury. There's rumors that China is unofficially buying Bitcoin. I kind of feel like everybody knows that, but more rumors.
Like China's been buying it for a while. I mean,
I think so too.
Like for me to think like, all of a sudden now in 2025 they started buying Bitcoin. It's like, dude, they were probably buying it as they were banning it. They were probably buying it themselves at cheap prices, right? So I think I would not be shocked at all if that's taking place.
Okay, let's chat about what are you most excited about for 2025? Which tokens or sectors do you have the most conviction in?
Yeah, in terms of sectors that I think your users would want to learn about, the 2 or 3 we can talk about is DePIN, AI tokens. I mean, that's always a hot area where there's tons of new projects coming out. It seems daily. And then the financialization of everything. So how is our social media experience going to change once you start building markets on top? But maybe let's start with DePIN at a high level.
We haven't talked about DePIN a lot recently because it hasn't had the narrative.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if I put out a show, we had Helium COO Frank on the show like 2 months ago. I thought it was a great show and it bombed. Nobody cared, right? So let's tell our audience why they should be paying attention to DePIN and maybe they'll catch up.
Okay, well, in that case, you're setting a low bar here when we talk about DePIN. So if I exceed that bar, it's only up from here, basically, is what we're saying. So here's the thing. DeFi today is trying to re-platform the financial system. It's saying instead of going through these sort of like various banks where they're all basically have different counterparty risk rolling up to the central government, how do we remove these counterparties and create direct transactions to do the types of financial needs and build the financial primitives we use today? Send, receive, borrow, lend, margin, leverage, etc. And I think it's been an incredibly productive space. Think about that same framework, but instead of re-platforming the financial system, re-platforming our infrastructure. And I think Trump in particular is really focused on American exceptionalism. He sees degrading infrastructure and realizing, these legacy companies, like they're trying to make infrastructure decisions from boardrooms hundreds of and thousands of miles away. Like they're not in touch with the type of services that everyday Americans and even across the globe that people are using. So how do we re-platform our infrastructure? Well, that is where DePIN starts to come in. And so basically across the DePIN stands for decentralized physical infrastructure. Exactly. So basically think about networks that are being created by people running physical devices, whether it's computers, it could be cameras, it could be air quality sensors, all these different things. And it's giving people the ability to control their own data and control their own infrastructure in a way we haven't seen before. So one of the areas I am really excited about is mapping. And so in this space, the thesis is we have Street View today, and there's ways where you can start to use Google Earth and get a view of something. But that data is really stale. And the question is, well, how do you create a real-time network where anyone in the world can get a live shot of anything in the world? And so Hivemapper is one of the key technologies here, which is basically a dash cam that any of your listeners could buy, put in their car, and start mapping. What it's doing is it's processing data, it's tagging certain things like construction zones, it's tagging if there's potholes in the road, all as a traffic data, all these different signals, and relaying it up to a network. And so now people and companies are buying that data on the back end. And so as running this dash cam, instead of this road getting driven over once every 6 months and getting a view, it's happening multiple times a day. And so if you think about data latency, that's a massive value proposition that is being created. And the way I extend this beyond Hivemapper is we've seen a lot of deals on aerial mapping. So like using UAVs. And think about all the natural disasters we've had recently with the fires going on in LA. We had what happened in North Carolina. Imagine if people could send up their UAVs as part of a targeted network for disaster relief. So for example, hey, show me a spot here. Somebody gets tokens for fulfilling that query and running a UAV over a certain pattern. Another area that's going to grow a ton is hedge funds. As we know, hedge funds use mapping data today from satellites. It's like very well understood and known. But the thing is, satellites only have a certain refresh rate. They might not get the same level of clarity and granularity that you can get from a UAV. And so imagine now you could be a hedge fund in Singapore, say, I want to understand the number of cars in a Walmart in Oklahoma. You click a button and that network is built out and somebody can fulfill that instantly or within like a 1 hour period. That is an incredibly powerful technology around understanding our world in a way that didn't exist before. So I think mapping is one part of DePIN I'm really looking at.
Let's just go a little bit deeper
Sure,
on Hivemapper here, because I love the Hivemapper, and we actually had Ariel, the CEO and founder of Hivemapper, on the show probably 2 years ago.
Oh wow,
a long time ago. So you're really barking up my tree here. But I was going to bring up their site. They have mapped 30% of the world.
Yep.
30% of the world. You know how long it must have taken Google and these other large mapping companies to map 30% of the world? And they've done this in, I think, under maybe a year or two. So not that
a couple
long.
years. I mean, it's incredible.
Incredible rate of growth. Now, the other thing I got to bring up is their token. Now, their token is Honey for everybody that's interested in what we're talking about here. Their market cap is $225 million. That is so low in crypto. 460 fully diluted. So okay, a little bit more if you're fully diluted, but still, this token all-time highs back in the last it was a year ago, back in early January, they reached 0.29.3, currently sitting at 7 cents. Any predictions or thoughts on where you think Honey could go in this cycle?
Yeah, so I expect it to go higher. The thing is, what I look for in investments is limited downside with large amount of upside. And when I look at this token, you've seen it's had a really good support for however many months there, at least 6 months. It's really established this floor in terms of relative valuations. A company that can map anything in any road in the world, trading for 200 million market cap seems pretty reasonable. Okay, well, it's probably not going to go to 5 million, right? You have a pretty strong floor with, again, once these things start making more, once the company starts making more announcements and you just hear more people using it, earning tokens from the dash cam, I think this is one that just has a very large upside. Now, the one caution to your listeners around DePIN is there needs to be more retail interest in DePIN. If you look at the trading volume, it's very low, right? And so the from a fundamentals perspective, there's very few sectors more exciting to me than DePIN. But from is this token going to pop, and is there going to be liquidity on the back end to get out of it? It's something to watch for. And I wish these DePIN projects did a better job creating liquidity and communities for their tokens. I think they'll get there. But that's something that I would be watching for. The last thing to be watching for, as I'm looking at that Hive Mapper chart, is the ratio of circulating supply to FDV, right? There's still a lot of tokens that are going to be coming out. And so I'd be looking at what does that schedule look like? And is there going to be persistent selling from early institutional investors into that token, from that token? So these are all things to watch out for. But like generally, this I think is a very low downside, very high upside. Again, not financial advice. I am an RIA and I can't give you formal financial advice, but looking at the chart, the fundamentals, very, very strong.
Okay. I like it. Hot take. What else in DePIN do you like?
I tend to like projects. Well, I wrote, I'm not going to go through the whole piece, but I wrote a piece on this and I outlined 4 things I look for when looking for DePIN projects on the private investment side. One of the ones I really like is where demand. So like, let's say I map something, I send out a signal, sort of an infinite number of people can consume that when having only one provider. And the reason for that is you don't need to constantly be balancing supply and demand. So for example, in the case of a street map for a Hive Mapper, and then I'll go into the next one, I can map a road and you could have one person look at that photo or millions of people look at that photo. It's still the one track. And so all of a sudden you get a lot more value and revenue coming into the network versus, oh shit, now I need to incentivize a whole bunch more people to drive through that road. The counterexample to that, of course, is compute networks, where as the demand goes up, you need more compute to match that demand. So that's the counterexample. Another one here that is very low FDV relative to, I think, what it could do is one called GeoNet. And it's basically a thesis on the future of automation and robots. If you believe in this future, then this is probably the DePIN you should be looking at. What they do is, for everyone knows, for GPS, it's actually not that accurate. It's only accurate to within 3 meters a lot of times. They basically send out a highly detailed signal from their network of sensors that then allows GPS to be accurate within 1 centimeter. And you ask, well, why is that important? Well, if you have, automated farming, you have automated delivery going around different cities, you have all these different things. These devices need to know where they're at in space. And this is the type of network that sends out those signals that allow for much more precise location management. So this is one I've been watching. Again, FDV of only, looks like now 320 million. It was 250 before. The type of project I look for, again, strong fundamentals, category leader is something I always look for. Like, is this the winning company in the space? Right now, I would say it is from everything I've seen. These are the types of companies I look for. So chart to watch, again, a lot of low market cap to FTV. So that means there could be investors and private. I'm not a private investor in this company, but like there could be investors that are selling, which would suppress the price. Again, not a ton of trading volume, so one to watch out for. But in general, as these things start to grow and start to trade more, very, very optimistic for networks like this.
Yeah, and certainly I think the big thing, as you said, is really to watch for, will retail have its DePIN moment in 2025?
And it did last cycle. Again, last cycle, look at Heliums and the Hive Mappers. I think we got to find how to bring that back. And I think we do that. This sector can have unlimited growth. And again, it's not like a degen play. It's like we're creating real value for real people throughout the world. That is a really exciting vision.
Yeah. Okay. I got to get your take on AI agents and AI crypto as a whole. What are your thoughts?
I find what's going on right now in the space over the past 2 months incredibly exciting. For context, prior to this, there was a lot of companies that raised large amounts of venture capital, sometimes 5, 10, 15, $20 million rounds to build these crypto AI projects. But to date, most of them haven't shipped anything. So some early investor is getting a lot of upside in this company. It's been, 6 months to a year and the company hasn't shipped. Now, again, it might be a great product and it takes time and it's no shade to those founders, but as a listener, you get no upside in that, until it goes live at $1 billion, token may go live at $1 billion or $2 billion, and then you get on the upside. What we're seeing now is frameworks like Cerebro, AI16Z, and the ELIZA framework, the ARC framework that's being developed by Playground, where now these frameworks are being built and they're launching an open token that anyone can buy. And what that means is you're actually participating more in the upside than you could with the traditional AI crypto segment, which only for private investors like myself. And so I find that trend to be really exciting, to like people getting more interested in AI and actually using this stuff. The other thing is Eliza is live today. You can use it. And I think the only way that you're going to learn as a founder is if your product is being used by customers. And so the rapid iteration that's going to be taking place in both the frameworks that are being built that I just talked about, but also the different types of agents that are going to be delivered on top of them. There's a lot of these coins out there right now. They're at $5 million, $6 million market cap of what could be a really cool agent. So again, in this space, I think you're not going for deep conviction in one or two. You're like seeing these early risers and being like, great, let me go ahead and take a position here. And then you might get a 5 or 10x over a very short period of time. So that's why I'm really excited, is it's a new capital structure, live products that people can try, real communities getting built around them. On the framework side, I typically don't like to invest in places where there's multiple competitors. And so I personally have not done a lot of investing in AI16Z and sort of the big frameworks, because to me, it's not clear which one's going to win. Mm-hmm. And that makes it really hard, given that like I'm not like looking at AI full time. So I look for more, if there's a category leader, putting my chips there, or if there's like very low market cap things that you could just get a lot of upside, even in a competitive environment. That's kind of my approach that I've been taking. It's worked out pretty well so far, but obviously I'm always updating that, and you have to do it daily in this market.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing about AI agents. And first, I want to bring up a few charts and just get your thoughts on this, because the way I like to think about this is, let's just zoom out. And as you said, picking the specific project that wins in AI agents, or even extend to crypto AI in this cycle, is going to be very difficult, because it's so much based on hype and speculation. And so first, I think the thing is, okay, let's build our thesis around what could AI agents as a whole get to in this cycle. Right now, as of recording, let me bring up Cookie.fun. Total market cap for AI agents, according to Cookie.fun, which tracks 1,266 agents and includes frameworks within these, is $17.4 billion. That's current total market cap, okay? Messari put out a couple of charts recently, where they basically mapped AI trend to memes of 2023-24. Memes peaked at about 40, just above 40 billion. And if you look at where we are right now this is mapping as of if it was at 10, when it was at 10 billion, or maybe that's actually today. Maybe it's around today. I think it's,
we're pretty close. Pretty close.
Basically, it's showing we got some time to go. If you compare to memes. The other comparison they made is comparing DeFi. DeFi made it to like 64 billion. Again, we got some time to go. Do you have any predictions on what total market cap for AI could get to in this cycle?
Quantitative numbers, no. I mean, because people that try to develop those are probably going to be wrong. I think the way to think about it is AI is a generational technology. And where I would not want to be is riding this up and riding this down. Again, when I was an early crypto investor 4, 5, 6 years ago, I was like the Aves of the world, and these things are just it's up only, right? And then you realize that people had way too much exuberance coming out of DeFi summer on the future potential, and these things took 70, 80, 90% downsides. So do I think the market has a lot of room to grow? Yes, but my personal conviction is now on the way up, I'm starting to take off some profits. So that way, if I do miss the top and get down ways, I at least feel good about that investment and have earned a good return there, building up a capital base. I like how Raoul Pal talks about this, where he's like, look, this is a 10-year generational opportunity we have in crypto. And what you don't want to do is over leverage yourself or overextend yourself, thinking that and even be right, and then not sell, and all of a sudden your capital base is low. Like the number one way to make money is just have a big capital base and don't lose a lot of it in the different cycles. But I think there's some good buying opportunities. I think it's going to go up over the cycle for sure. The question is just when and how do you take profits on it? And that's been my big learning for investing in crypto.
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys want to learn a little bit of when and how to take profits, go back and listen to yesterday's episode with Kyle, where he talks about, I mean, his great line from this episode was the objective is not to make the most money. The objective is to make money. Because if you try to make the most money, you usually lose. But if you just make money, you usually win. So take profits.
And it's like, there's a couple memes I hold that I have strong conviction in. And one of them, I sold 25% of my position maybe a month ago. And then it went up a little bit more. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I sold. But now I look at it and it's down from where I sold. I'm like, well, I'm glad I took some profits. Now, again, do I think it's going to come back? Yes. But you feel so much better making money. Even if you miss part of the top, then gosh, I just rode that thing all the way down. I feel like such an idiot.
Totally. Which memes do you have conviction in?
My biggest holdings are WIF, Bonk. And here's the thing: a lot of the AI tokens I'd say are memes fundamentally.
They are.
But in terms of size, those are the two. Again, to me, longtime Solana OG. Oh, I have Doge. I have some Doge as well. Doge to me was a fun buy actually going into the Trump presidency, which worked out quite well. And to me, it's just, if you're going to see Doge every single day on the news and Elon is going to be putting out like the dog, and you're like, okay, well, basically, I think Doge could become a proxy to how well Doge does. Again, like it's kind of like these new social markets. It's like, what can I bet on? And that's the amazing thing about Polymarket, is it allowed people to speculate and bet on things that otherwise they couldn't. And I think Doge is a proxy to how well the government's Doge does. And I'm like, you know what? Will it work? I don't know, but I think it's a pretty good play. And so far has worked out, but I'm really excited about that. So I think just having those really clear narratives in your head and why is something going to work is very valuable.
Yeah, you can't underestimate the power of Elon Musk, who has the largest following on Twitter, one of the biggest owns Twitter, one of the biggest impacts in the world when he says something. And now he is in charge of the Department of Governmental Efficiency, Doge, and he's going to be working on that and talking about that. Like, how can that not pump?
It's something where I wouldn't not want to be exposed. Again, may it be wrong? Perhaps, but imagine not having exposure and you're like, wow, that was such an obvious opportunity that I missed. So that's again, very large upside, hopefully limited downside.
Okay. Before we wrap, you did mention at the beginning of the show, financialization of everything, another sort of more bit fluid of a sector and a bit more difficult to define. Just tell us a little bit about your thoughts here.
Yeah, the way I think about it is we've introduced financial markets to things over time. And as we do, those things get better. So for example, sports 40 years ago, like it was pretty hard for people to bet on sports, and like people and watch their home game, their home team, but they usually didn't watch every single football game. Well, all of a sudden now with fantasy football, with FanDuel offering like mid-game bets and like, oh, bet in the next 10 seconds, people are incredibly engaged at watching the game, watching other games throughout the league. And so these financial markets have both allowed for truth discovery, who actually is supposed to win this game, rather than just what a bunch of bookies say in Vegas, like what are the real odds of this? And it allowed people to have more enjoyment. They're so much more engaged. And so I think you look at sports and like very clear how financialization has made that better. I think if you look at social media, it's pretty under financialized today. So we're seeing a lot of companies in the space that are saying, how do I take my data, my personality, and create markets around it in a way that didn't exist before? So one example, I wrote a piece on this that maybe we can link in the show notes on opinion markets. And the general thesis there is people have opinions. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. But like, I have an opinion. How do I make money on it? Like if, for example, one of the classic opinions in crypto is are meme coins good or bad for crypto? Like there's no objective right answer, but certainly people have views, and that view and consensus will change over time depending on what happens with memes. And so introducing opinion markets where people can now speculate on how social consensus, so first identify and then how it will evolve over time. Incredibly exciting. We see a number of teams here building, and that's going to grow. I think also people betting on their favorite creators. So for example, there's companies that are saying, hey, if you're a Mr. Beast fan or a Milk Road fan, how do you speculate on how many viewers their next episode is going to have? Let's say you had, Michael Saylor come on. People are like, oh shit, I'm going to bet that it's going to be a large number of viewers. Well, right now there's no way to do that. You might know the show, you might have strong convictions in the show, but you can't express your opinion on how that's going to go. And so people starting to bet on social media, I think, is going to be incredibly exciting. You can imagine just people on their phones just betting and how many tweets, like something's going to get, what kind of content is going to be produced. So I think just looking at every part of our life, for right now, there's no financial markets. And in crypto, we can build financial markets for anything because it's open, permissionless infrastructure. And so that is what I'm looking forward in 2025, especially on the private market side, where we're going to be trying to find these world-class founders building these primitives.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Is this more on the private market side, or is there projects that have tokens that are building?
The tokens aren't live yet for most of these, but where I think it comes down to is people betting on the markets themselves. So just like there's no Polymarket token, people are still making money on Polymarket. I think likewise, there's going to be these new types of markets that are introduced. And if you're early and aware, there's going to be a lot of mispricings that can take place. And I would be watching for those, especially if you like betting on, people like betting on things they like. The problem with the stock market is it's hard to compete long-term against a trader with 6 screens in world-class API feeds. It's hard to compete long-term. But social media, I bet there's things about crypto I know better than most people in the world. And just likewise, you probably know certain things better than most people in the world. Well, you have alpha that you don't have in these other markets. So that's really exciting and what I look forward to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that take. Carl, been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Hopefully we can get you back again soon. Really appreciate your time. Everybody listening in, thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a wicked awesome day.
You too.
As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.